I want to tell you something that might sting a little at first, but if you sit with it, really sit with it, it might be the most freeing thing you hear all year. Most people don't really care about you. Now, before you click away thinking this is some sad old woman being cynical, wait, because I mean that as a gift. I genuinely do. You know what I watched for 40 years as a librarian? People, thousands of them, coming in, going out, sitting in those oak chairs that creaked if you breathed wrong. And you learn things when you spend 4 decades watching quietly. One of the biggest things I learned is that almost everyone, is walking around performing for an audience that isn't watching. I had a patron, her name was Diane Kessler, came in every Tuesday and Thursday, early 90s this was, maybe 91, 92, always dressed immaculately, full makeup, coordinated handbag. She'd take exactly 45 minutes to choose her books, and she'd always bring them to my desk and say something like, "Oh, Peggy, I hope people don't think I read too many romances." Every single time, some version of that apology. For what? For what she liked to read? In a library? Where the entire purpose is to read what you want? And I'd smile and tell her, "Diane, nobody's keeping track." She didn't believe me, not really. And I think most of you don't believe that either. So here's what I want you to try, and I mean today, not eventually. Think about the last thing you didn't do because you were worried about what someone might think. Maybe you didn't wear something, didn't post something, didn't say something honest at dinner last night, didn't sign up for that class or take that walk alone or sit in a restaurant by yourself. Now ask yourself, who exactly were you performing for? Can you name them? And if you can name them, are they thinking about you right now, at this very moment? I promise you they are not. They are thinking about what they're going to have for lunch. That's not cruel. That's just true. My husband Harold, God rest him, he understood this before I did, actually. Harold was a man who wore the same 3 flannel shirts in rotation for probably 20 years. Not because he couldn't afford more, because he liked those shirts. One of them had a small tear near the left cuff that I offered to mend at least a dozen times, and he'd say, "Peg, who's looking at my cuff?" He was right. Nobody was looking at his cuff. And the fact that he knew that, really knew it in his bones, made him one of the most relaxed people I've ever been around. Meanwhile, I spent a good portion of my younger years worried that our life looked too small from the outside. We didn't travel much. We didn't entertain. Friday nights were books and the radio, and maybe a glass of something if we felt fancy. And I'd catch myself sometimes, especially when my sister Valerie would call from Minneapolis, talking about dinner parties and weekend getaways. I'd catch myself thinking, are we doing this wrong? You know what I want you to write down? Actual pen, actual paper. Write this question. Whose life am I comparing mine to? And did I even ask them if they're happy? Because I'll tell you what happened with Valerie. Years later, this is maybe 2003, 2004, she sat at my kitchen table and said, "Peggy, I'm exhausted. I've been exhausted for 30 years. I don't even like most of the people I spend my weekends with." And she wasn't being dramatic. She meant it. She'd built this whole life around being seen a certain way, and the weight of it had just flattened her. Now, I'm not telling you Valerie's life was wrong and mine was right. That's too simple, and life doesn't work in tidy little lessons like that. Valerie loved parts of her life. I envied parts of it, honestly. She was braver than me socially, always was. What I'm saying is that the part she built for the audience, that was the part that broke her. And that's the trap. You're not going to ruin your life with one big dramatic mistake. Most people don't. You're going to wear it down slowly, one tiny performance at a time. One yes when you meant no. One brunch you didn't want to go to. One career you chose because it photographs well. One apartment you can't afford because it looks right on a screen. Let me tell you about something small that changed the entire direction of my thinking. There was a Wednesday, I remember it was early November, probably 1978, and a young man came into the library, college age. He had a notebook, and he sat at the table near the window, the one that caught the afternoon light, and he just wrote for 3 hours. Didn't look up, didn't check if anyone noticed him, didn't angle his notebook so people could see he was being creative. He was just completely absorbed. And I thought, that's it. That's what it looks like when someone isn't performing. That's what it looks like when the audience disappears and you're just in your life instead of narrating it. You want to know something I wish someone had told me at 25? You are not a character in other people's stories. You are barely a background extra. Everyone is the main character of their own movie, and you, my darling, are scenery. That sounds harsh, but it's the most liberating thing in the world once you stop fighting it. Because if nobody's watching that closely, if nobody's really keeping score, then you can do whatever you want. You can read the romance novels, wear the flannel shirt, stay in on Friday, leave the party, change your career at 43, eat lunch alone, and enjoy it. My daughter, Karen, she called me last spring, very upset because she'd turned down a promotion and was convinced her whole department was judging her. She'd been losing sleep over it. I asked her, Karen, what did Linda in accounting have for breakfast this morning? She said, Mom, what? I don't know. And I said, exactly. And Linda doesn't know what you turned down either. And if she does know, she thought about it for 90 seconds and moved on to her own problems. That's not a theory. That's 40 years of watching people from behind a circulation desk. Now, here's where I have to be honest with you, because I promised myself if I ever talked about any of this, I'd be honest. Knowing this, really knowing that people aren't paying attention, it doesn't just set you free, it also makes you a little sad if you let it. Because part of you wants to matter to everyone. Part of you wants the world to stop and notice. I felt that too, especially after Harold passed. You realize the person who was paying attention is gone, and the silence is different then. It's heavier for a while. But here's what I found on the other side of that heaviness. When you stop needing the world to validate your life, you start being able to actually live it. Not perform it, live it. There's a difference, and it's enormous. I'm 91 years old. I've buried my husband, two of my closest friends, and a version of myself that cared too much about things that had nothing to do with me. And I sit here now, with my cat and my coffee and my birds at the feeder, and I am not lonely. I am not bored. I am not wondering what anyone thinks about me. And I cannot tell you how long it took me to get here. How many wasted evenings I spent worrying about whether our Christmas card was impressive enough, or whether the neighbors thought we were strange. So if you hear one thing from me today, let it be this. The audience you're performing for, they left the theater a long time ago. They're at home performing for their audience, who also isn't watching. Put the costume down. Go be the person you actually are. It's the quietest rebellion there is, and it's the only one that matters.